Okay, we're in John chapter 5. We did 1, 2, 3, 4. You remember what chapter 4 was? Chapter 4 is always known as the woman at the well. We didn't woman at the well. And at the end of chapter 4, they break camp and they head for Galilee. Now we need in our minds a little bit here. You remember our little map? Let's get the map in our minds, okay? First of all, there are 3 provinces. Not cities, but provinces, okay? Judea is where Jerusalem is, down here, all right? The next one up is what?
Samaria.
Samaria, and that's where?
That's where the woman at the well was.
Cana is the one, the main one. And then the third one up is
It's Galilee.
Galilee, and you got several in there. The Sea of Galilee is known also as the Sea of Tiberias, interchangeable name in there. And you got several things. You've got up through there, you've got Capernaum that would become the home of Jesus after he moves from Nazareth, okay? And you have some things that really happen up in this area. And so from chapter 4 to chapter 5 then, what it's saying is they do leave Cana in Samaria and go up toward and have a trip up toward Sea of Galilee or Galilee. Now between 4 and 5 here, beginning with 5, they make the trip from Capernaum, which is on the top of almost on the top of the Sea of Galilee. They made that trip back to Jerusalem. Okay, so here's the trip. And our map shows it to be 94 miles. Now the way they walked, I don't know how many miles it was, but it was around 94 miles. And so I was just thinking, that's a long trip by foot. 94 miles. I didn't take the time to try to figure out how many days that would take, but 94 miles. So if you will, we're going to do the fill-ins, and if these are chapters that certain amount we need to cover, but they're chapters where if you've been in them, you've heard preached, you've heard this kind of thing, and you've got something to chime in, feel free to do so, because we're going to caption these of what they are here. And chapter 5, verse 1 says, after this, that's what we just said, after this in Galilee. After this, there was a feast of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. That's the purpose. Now remember, a couple of things here, just want to make sure, besides the facts in the scripture, that you want to, when you're reading commentaries and things as you further your studies, that everybody that went up to Jerusalem, whether it was north or south. And Jerusalem is elevated, but because of being the holy city, it was known when you go read the Bible, they went up to Jerusalem, even if they were going south, okay? And so it says that the feast of the Jews now, there will give you this on the top of your notes. Nothing's there. Okay. There were. I want you to put this down or think about it. One.
Did we get some more tonight? I didn't get it.
No.
Okay.
These. I was looking to see if what was on your notes was on my notes, or my notes on your notes. It's page 18. Okay. And there's nothing written on top, right?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. There were, something I want to bring to your mind and as you study, there were 3 feasts of the feast, Jewish feasts, that all male Jews are supposed to attend, once a year if possible. And your note there, Deuteronomy 16:16 is where it was given, one of the places. And here's the 3 times: Passover, Pentecost, Tabernacles. Those 3 feasts. And actually we had time, and I'm going to do it right now, we'll come back to it. I pulled today, you might want to pull this, it's good for you. Just go on your search engine on your computer and put down Jewish feast, and you'll get several lines up there. The first 2 or 3 popped up on mine was good, and I've got them over there. The feast, there's the 3 in April, or first part of the year. And then you have the summertime, and you have the others that are in the fall, okay? And we think that they're shadows of fulfillment of what God's doing on earth, okay? That the time between those 4 months of harvest, the Bible talks about there are 4 months, and then you go before the harvest, that's the church age, when the ingathering is taking place. And you read that. Read them give me that because it placed here tonight on this part. There was a feast. It did not say what feast it was, but there was a feast in Jerusalem. Now, because I'm going to give you your fill-ins there. I would have all this time I've been giving it as a Passover. Okay, so write that down. Okay, But I also want you to write down / Pentecost. And I tell you what, we're doing this. I want you to know when you read, when you're reading. By the way, I told you, did I show you my harmony? I talked about harmony, right? Did I bring it to class? Did I bring it to class?
Yeah.
All right, if you open it anywhere in there, you'll see a harmony where it lays the gospels beside each other. Okay? And it's a chronological life of Christ, chronological full gospels, okay? And because, see, like John, we skip huge areas in the life of Christ when you're just doing John. Matthew, Mark, maybe in the middle there, that kind of stuff. And so, and so in here, so in this, there's some reading, there's a whole thing in the back of it in here on what feast this was. And it gives them the pros and cons of it. And the reason I want, when you read, there are scholars who make Jesus attending 2 Passovers, 3 Passovers, and 4 Passovers, okay? And so as you read them, depending on what they think about the chronology there, you'll find it all there. I believe, I almost know that he attended at least 3. But now see, he attended 1, he was 12 years old. Because that doesn't count as far as the chronology of our studies, okay? But we know that's what it was when as a boy he was disputing in the temple when the parents went back to look for him. That was a Passover. But then after he went into the ministry, 30 years went into the ministry here then. And so the Passover is what the, let's see, if your Bible might have, okay, my Bible is a Schofield Bible, and it says the feast, parentheses, Pentecost, ? Okay? But also in studying even yesterday and today, Schofield believes Pentecost, but the couple other Bibles believe it was Passover, and that's the reason I'm giving it to you because of the fact that as you read one, it may say it was this Passover. So when in future reading, you become to 5:1, and it tells you which one it is. No, there's a question mark there, okay? And depending on what author you are and where you is. So, and there are others in a fill-in chapter here that will go a little bit further into that, okay? But I wanted to give you that so you know about the feast. And please, if you would, do me a favor and just go to your computer and look up the feast, if you would. It's interesting, and it won't take you 5 minutes to read it, okay? But just look it up.
A Jewish feast?
Just put in your search engine, put down Jewish feast. It'll pop up several in there, and you just start reading. All of them will be pretty near okay. You know, they're good.
What
In fact,
was the last one you said? Passover, Pentecost, and what?
Tabernacles, I think. This is one that if you can look at, this is one here. He gives us 7 right there. The 7 feast. And I just pulled that off today, and so it'll be something like that. And so, again, it gives something about each one of them. But they're interesting. And like I say, most scholars believe they are a shadow, they are a picture of fulfillments in days to come, okay? Like a lot of Old Testament stuff is. So let's see what we're doing here. And now there is a pool, verse 2, there is a pool by the sheep market. Now I used to know these, I'm sorry, I do not know where the sheep market is, okay? And
It's at the sheep gate.
It's at Sheep Gate. I don't know where it is right now. If you go to your picture, if you go to your picture of Jerusalem, I'm sure you can find it. Okay, it's in the back of your Bible, whatever. A pool, which is called in Hebrew tongue Bethesda, having 5 porches. Gives you a pretty good picture. And this lay a great multitude of impotent folk, blind, halt, withered, waiting for the moving of the water. For an angel went down at a certain season of the pool and troubled the water. Whosoever then first, after the trouble of the water, stepped in, was made whole of whatsoever disease he had. And a certain man was there, which had infirmity 38 years. When Jesus saw him lie, and knew that he had been a long time in that case, he said unto him, Will have been made whole? The impotent man answered him, Sir, I have no man when the water is troubled to put me into the pool. But while I am coming, another stepped down before me. Jesus said to him, Rise, take up thy bed and walk. Immediately the man was made whole, and took up his bed and walked, and on the same day was the Sabbath. There's a lot of reading and commentaries on this particular place here. You could read it, but we're looking at the facts here now. If it wasn't in the Bible, you look at that and say, oh, no, wait a minute. You got a pool here, and the angel's going to stir up the waters, and then who gets in there first is going to be healed. I mean, that's kind of a fairy tale, isn't it? You know, But it's in the Bible, okay? And so therefore, I just take it by faith and believe it is and what happens here. The really important here, of course, is that he gets healed. And so I want to go to your notes at this time, or your fill-ins, if you would. And so number 2 in your fill-ins, the setting of this coming miracle is a pool of Bethesda, which means house of mercy. Right there in your scripture, means house of mercy. Number 3, the maladies of the multitudes are symbolic. And what were there? All kinds, said all blind, all those. Are symbolic of the moral conditions of men. All of sin and control of the glory of God. When you're looking and someday you want to do preaching or teaching, we won't let you preach, okay? Preaching or teaching, you'll try to apply, and so you look at this, and when you see Jesus doing things, the Bible always says applications. And so this was an application of there were all kind of people with all kind of maladies. And the world's like that, right? And so you get your application there. Remember before, the angels stirred the waters. Now, listen to this because this is an Anderson philosophy, okay? The angels stirred the waters, and the cure was for whosoever, of whatsoever, but not whensoever.
Whensoever.
Let me apply that, okay? You notice it says there that when it comes, but it wasn't the matter. It was whosoever, no matter who it was, they get cured of whatsoever that was wrong with them. But they had to get there and get in the water when the angel stirred the water, okay? Now, this is the application here, and I actually have a message on this somewhere, that people, whosoever can get saved, no matter where they've been, where they're going, where they come from, or whatever, they can get saved, whosoever, whatsoever, but not whensoever. I don't know what you believe, and it didn't really matter. I don't have a hard, fast feeling, but some believe that you can say no to God so long it doesn't deal with you anymore. Okay, some believe that you can't do that. I don't know. Okay, but I do know the Bible says you can't be saved unless you're drawn by the Spirit.
Absolutely.
So we use this a lot of time in churches to try to convince people you need to do it now, because so many times people have been under conviction. You've heard the stories probably, the preachers telling about this man was standing back there and he's holding that pew so hard his knuckles turn white, But the fact of the matter is people will get that much under conviction, and if they don't do something. Now, do you have to come forward? No. You get saved in the pew just as good as you can anywhere else. You get saved back there. I got saved in my automobile, I mean, anywhere, but just wherever you hear the gospel, like in the preaching, and God deals with you, it's good to do it, take care of it then. Because as soon as you walk out that door, either it'll go, or I call it the devil stealing it from you, whatever, is you're more apt to not do anything than you're apt to do it, okay? Now, I've known some who go home and they think about it and they pray about it and all this, and then they get saved or get right with God, okay? But more time than not, you need to, whenever God's dealing with you, that's when you need to take care of it. That's where you're going to urge still to have all the services now and all the calls. I don't much believe in all the calls. And all the call means you're trying to get as many people down as you can. But we need, but there are a lot of churches now quit invitations. They don't have an invitation. And somebody wants to get saved, they go and ask somebody or whatever, But I believe that all the things in the Bible, and I believe we ought to use it, because it's when you get that, when the Holy Spirit convicts you, you need to give them a way to do something to come forward. And so we believe in still having, an open invitation, okay? If that makes any sense to you, okay? And so that's 1 through 4. 5 through 6 is the healing of the infirmity of 38 years. And I just put this down. I don't know. I picked this up somewhere. I don't know. They might give you an idea. We talked about last time we met about when you go in to witness somebody, especially going to a home, to find something that you can communicate with, If you're a hunter yourself and you see a trophy on the wall or that kind of thing, it's something to break the ice, they call it, okay. But here's what Jesus used in 3 instances, so it might help you some. Approaches that Jesus used. The first words of this man was, "Will thou be made whole?" That'll catch you when you had infirmity 38 years, won't it? And then to the words of Nicodemus, "Except a man be born again," because see, he was a leader in Israel, and so he was in the scriptures, okay. And then the one with chapter 4, he said, "Give me a drink," because she was coming to water. Whatever was something was on their mind, Jesus used to try to bring them to a point of talking, conversation there, and so I don't know if that'll help any or not, but it's good ideas to study. If you want to be a soul winner, it's good to study. Of course, it has to be of the Holy Spirit, but there's techniques also that make you better if you kind of do some studying on those kind of things, how to break the ice. One of the things that a lot of young pastors don't have, and a lot of old ones too, is we call it drawing the net. You talk and you talk and you talk and you write down, but don't know how to
Close.
You have to end the thing to where you draw a net on them, to get them to make a decision one another. Whenever we want to make a decision, just a decision, just to pray a prayer. That didn't do them any good. That gives them false hope, But bring them to a decision of yes or no, because so many people would get saved when we witnessed to them if we knew how to draw the net. And there's some studies on that done by great soul winners. That would help us a whole lot in that, probably. And maybe one day we'll do something on soul winning, okay? But first thing we gotta do is start soul winning. Amen. I haven't a lot, I admit, it bothers me because I was out at least twice a week, days going by, and I don't much out anymore. Got to work at the wall and this kind of thing. And then if you're not careful, you'll just quit. And you'll rationalize it, hey, it's all right, nobody else is, whatever. But I think God expects us to be soul winners. You don't have to go out, knock on doors, but you have to be a witness wherever you are.
Have to be ready.
Yeah, ready, and actually, not only be ready, but actually do it wherever you are. And we fall down a lot there. Okay, verse 16, this miracle now, there's one problem with it, according to the religionist. It was done on the Sabbath day. And you realize that Sabbath day is not the same as Resurrection Day. Okay? The Sabbath day was given to the nation of Israel. And it's the seventh day if we have the right calculation, and we could well not have the right calculation, all I know, but if we have it, then that would be Saturday. Okay? We meet on Sunday because it's Resurrection Day. And Paul then established that in the New Testament that we meet on the Lord's Day. Okay? We were by a church this week, and it's a Seventh-day Baptist in McDonald. Now, I don't know what their idea is there, but they're trying to live in the Old Testament, I guess, quite frankly, because that's an Old Testament thing anyway, even though we have it here, still in the Jewish theology here, okay? And so, it was on the Sabbath day. I've got this down, the miracle done on the Sabbath day. Religion was more interested in the day than the man. Now, verse 17 of our text, I'll read it. It says, but Jesus answered them, my Father worketh hitherto, and I work. When they question about Sabbath day, I've got a little note that you might, that the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. And the idea of that is, what is the greater thing there? See, in the book of Genesis, which we studied, God gave the Sabbath to man. The Sabbath wasn't the big thing. He made man under the Sabbath. You get it there? And I've often wondered, if I were there and I was trying to do what the leaders told me to do, would I thought he was wrong? Because they lived under Sabbath where you couldn't do anything. I mean, you virtually couldn't do anything on the Sabbath day.
If you were the one being healed, you wouldn't think that.
No, I was one being, and you'll see this in here, but I'm talking about the religious leaders. What would be our reaction is what I'm saying. A lot of times we pick sides when we're in the Bible, but if we'd been there, it's a question, what would we have done? What would we have done? And so 18 through 23, Jesus was identified as the one doing the healing, and asked who it was. He said, I don't know. But then Jesus went to the temple and saw him. And in 18 through 23, Jesus claims his deity and the Father are one. O-N-E, you fill in. 18 through 23. Two reasons why the Jews sought to kill Jesus. Number one, he broke the Sabbath law. And the second was he claimed equality with God. Now I have a note in my notes, it was in yours or not, that beside that, the person of Christ is challenged today. There's been no greater. We did this in Sunday school. I don't know if you remember in my Sunday school and did that. But months ago was that in the first century after Christ, in AD, the first century, the enemy tried to do away with the Christian. Second century tried to do away with the Bible. Neither one of them worked. So the third century, they started to weaken the Bible, and they have ever since. And we see here that the big thing, we had a challenge to the Bible being the Word of God in America in these centuries. But the latest thing has been a challenge on His person. Who is He? You know, and you got cults that come out because Jehovah's Witnesses don't believe He's God. They believe He's a Son of God, but a created being under God Himself. And so the person of Christ. Then verses 24 through 47, Jesus is God, and I've got witnesses. Verse 29 of 5 verses is what needs to be cleared up. It says, well, Mark 28, marvel not at this, for the hour is coming in which all that are in the grave shall hear His voice, and shall come forth, that they have done good in the resurrection of life, and they have done evil in the resurrection of damnation. This verse is used a lot of time to teach a general resurrection, but it's not right. There will be no general resurrection. There'll be the rapture. There'll be the second coming per se, when He comes to set the kingdom up, and there will be the great white throne judgment later down the road. It's called the first and the second death. Okay, and so just wanted, if you run across that, just want to clear that up there on the general resurrection. 32 to 39, there's no fill-ins, but fourfold witness that Jesus is God. John the Baptist testified so. The works the Father gave Him to do, that which He did, the Father Himself bear witness, and the Scriptures testify of Jesus. Then verse 40 through 47, their unbelief is described here, and you'll see this is also indicative of our day and time. Yes, sir.
Verse 29 does not teach a blank resurrection.
General.
General?
Oh, what that means is that there, in days gone by in particular, it was said that a general resurrection, that the world's coming to a screeching halt, and it'll be the resurrection. Okay, and it's done a lot out in the country. I mean, the guy that kind of prompted me to get saved, you might say, in a preaching way, he did that, but he did it because he didn't know any better. It wasn't. He never had any training, anything. He was just doing the best he could, and he was doing a good job of the best he could, you know.
Amen.
And God honored the word, but he preached a general resurrection, you know. But we know through studying our Bible, there's not a general resurrection all at one time. It's going to be in segments, okay. And so we in 40, verse 40. Now notice the reaction is the same as it is today in these things. Verse 39, search the Scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they which testify of me, and you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive my honor from men, for I know you, that you have not the love of God in you. I am come in my Father's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one of another, and seek not honor that cometh from God? Do not think that I will accuse you to the fault. There is one that accuses you, even Moses, whom you trust. For if you had believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how shall you believe my words? They were his Israel. Moses was their big guy, okay, and so that's what he said there. Okay, on the pool of Bethesda, the healing of the Bethesda on the Sabbath day. Any questions, any comments?
I got a question about something you said a while ago.
Okay.
The 3 stages of attack that you were talking about, I'm trying to write those down.
The 3 what?
Those stages of attack that you were talking about.
They were in the notes.
Not in the, what it said, to do away with
Christians.
Do away with Christ, I guess, do away with the
Oh, you're on that part. Yeah, okay. I've got those in the notes. I'll bring you a whole study on it.
Good deal.
But I did it in, I was asked in the other class where we divided to do a 2 or 3 week thing on the King James Bible. But when I do that, I do more history than I do anything else, and so
That's good.
I'll bring. But it was how tactics of the devil, of Satan, and what they attacked as enemies, and they attacked on those fronts. You know, they tried to get rid of the Christians, you know, and they tried to get rid of the Bible, and then they tried to weaken the Bible.
Okay.
But there's more detail in what, you know, all the way up to Constantine in 315 that was the worst thing that ever happened, was when he made Christianity the official state religion. We'll catch that in Baptist history one day, okay? I love to do Baptist history. Oh, that's good. And you have a whole notebook to do. You got another book of yourself when we do that. You know, that'd be good. You can just memorize it, okay? No, I'm kidding. Okay, 19 is sort of a filler between on 6-1. I'm not going to spend much time on it, but it is, as we begin to get to the IAMs in here, we'll just put these down for you there. The use without the predicate. All of you know what a subject and predicate is. Of course you do. References in John, then number 1, fill in the meaning. Number 2, self-existent one. And then under there you have there. Now, your notes probably says 1 page on either. I won't make you do that. Did yours have that in your notes? Okay, you can just omit that, okay. Normally we'd have you do it on paper. We're kind of flying in this, we're going to try to correct that. But anyway, those are your IAMs in there, just as a reference number there. And we'll go into the first IAM, the bread of life in here. So page 20, if you would please, in chapter 6. Now, how many of you be honest with me, because I don't know how much to read in the text, you're familiar with the feeding of the 5,000? Nathan?
I'm familiar with it.
Okay. The story in a nutshell, you know the story there, okay. Now, we have this in the here, I gave you what was from 4 to 5. They went back to Jerusalem. From 5 to 6, they go back to Galilee. It's a Galilean tour. And this setting in the wilderness near Bethesda, the north of the Sea of Galilee. So we're back up now on your map in your head. Okay, we're back up. And we're on a plain with plateaus, mountain area outside Capernaum, okay? And that's where the setting is, okay? And so we have that setting here. Between chapters 5 and 6 in your notes, these are found in other places that were not listed here. Jesus selects the 12 apostles. You have the Sermon on the Mount. Raises the widow's son at Nain, and you have parables of Matthew 13. It's a panorama, you fill in, a panorama of the church age. Anybody in here ever studied the Matthew 13 parables? Matthew 13 parables.
Vaguely.
Okay. We think the Matthew 13 parables are a picture of the building of the kingdom. And I'm in Sunday school and doing Revelation, and it parallels the 7 churches' Revelation. They're not the same, but they're parallel periods.
So they aren't the same?
No, but it's the same period. But
so it's the same period?
One is built, and the categories there. Okay, we think those, and I'll give you a sheet if you want one of those. Sheets on it. I got them already made up, so my Sunday school, but they're interested there because it kind of breaks down the historical. My little chart has the Matthew 13 parables, and it has the church, each church, and the period that it's supposed to go with. Okay. And it's kind of interesting, but they were careful. My reading was careful not to make them identical, but to make them correspond, if you want to call it that way, okay? Because Matthew 13 parables is building the kingdom on earth. Now, it's not the kingdom of God, and there's a difference there, but because, and I did a sermon on the mustard seed, and one of those parables have the mustard seed, and it will grow into a giant tree, and birds roost in it. Okay, can roost in it. And I believe in our day and time, I believe it's talking about not Christianity so much as churchianity. Right, unnamed Christianity. And in that tree there'd be a lot of birds roosting in it. You with me? That may be a little pulling the scripture a little bit, but it makes good preaching, Brother Nathan. You list all those birds nesting in churchianity, okay?
Is that the
All
Anderson
kind of
philosophy?
Yeah, and everybody's wrong except us Baptists. Okay. All right. Can anybody else get saved? Yeah, maybe so. All right. So chapter 6. You know what happens then on the feeding the 5,000? Okay. Now, most commentaries tell you You can call them?
Yes. It's that everything hits
The
the
vent's
wall.
right there.
And knocks it right on me. Sorry, y'all.
Okay. Most commentaries, now, Julie, don't get upset, okay? In the day and time of the writing of the Bible, you just didn't name and give numbers of ladies. I mean, there's a few listed, you know, in the New Testament, right? But here when it says here 5,000 men, most commentaries say there was probably 15,000 there. Men, women, children.
I thought it was always, when it said men, it meant, it would just.
Well, man is generic. I mean, it'll say, like, man might include the whole human race, you know. But that's what all commentators I've read think, that it's not just 5,000 men there. There were families there, you know, they would go. And the reason here is that they were on the way somewhere, and we'll get to that. There would be crowds, okay? They were going to Jerusalem, okay? And they were crowds following him. And that. So, but I just wanted to make that clear, is that when we talk about feeding 5,000, is what we call it, there were probably many more than 5,000. Could have been 7,000, came over 215, yes, sir.
Doesn't one book say that it included women and children?
It may, it may, and I apologize.
Not including.
I apologize for not having that, but, yeah, but it may be my work coming from. Anyway, there were more than 5,000, okay? I just wanted to let you know as we do that. Now, time only about a year from the crucifixion. So you see, we're only in chapter 6, but it's only about a year to the crucifixion, okay? So Matthew, Mark, and Luke has covered a lot of territory that John has not covered in here. It's near Bethsaida, which is Philip's home. And you're filling in there, Philip's home. The feeding the 5,000, and I've got in here plus women and children. And it was a great need, and you say you've all somehow heard of it. There was a great need, and we'll go back in one of them, and it actually says this, but in chapter 4, pulling this where they just came from 4 and 5, he saw people as having no shepherd, and the fields while in the harvest. And what it's the only thing I want to say in here is when Jesus saw a crowd, he didn't see a problem. He saw a possibility, you know, because that was why he came. And so he's, you know, reaching people here. Verse 7 is an impossible task on the human level. It says, Philip answered, 200 pennyworth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may take a little. My Bible says somewhere it says, not my Bible, but a pennyworth was about today 17 cents or something like that. But they were so far away and they couldn't do anything. It was an impossible task to feed all these. And it was late, and they, you know, and it was late, and they were getting hungry. And said, so verses 8 and 9, and this is captioned. You remember the little boy, you know, the lad, you know the story. In here, and so he had a lunch, and so after, you know, what I just read there, and then it said, but there is a little lad here with a lunch, 5 loaves and 2 fishes, you know, and so we've used that, preached on that, and thought about that and all, and so here's what I captioned in verse 8 and 9. What you have, or what you are, as little as it may be, can be blessed if it is made available to God. Somebody once said, it doesn't need our ability, it needs our availability. And that's so true. And another little thing I might pass on to these two younger folks here, that, you know, if God calls, we've always said this, if God calls you to do anything, okay, He will supply your need to do it. Like teaching a class. Whereas if you're doing it because you believe God wants you to do it, He'll help you do it, okay, because He'll glorify Him. Okay, verse 11 through 13 is talking about, my God shall supply all your needs. A pull from Philippians 4:19, a commentary on this. And see, 11, Jesus took the loaves, and when He had given things, He distributed the disciples of them that were set down, and likewise all the fishes as much as they would. And when they were filled, he said in this Bible, gather up the fragments that remained, that nothing be lost. And therefore together filled 12 baskets. Some say one for each tribe, one for each disciple, whatever way you want to put it there. And in this, and the thing that I just put in here is our famous statement out of Philippians 4:19. My God shall supply all your need. And it's interesting that the same words used in Philippians 4:18. Paul said, I am full. 4:19, he said, he shall supply. The word full and supply come from the same word. And it means to fill up. And so it's interesting study there. Paul said, I have all that God, I guess, wants me to have. I'm full, and God will supply all yours. God full. And I put it like this, I really like to think, I read once on my time. If you think of God having a supply house, naturally you think of it in heaven, okay, because it's coming in that direction. You think of having a barn or a supply house, and it's full. And everybody on earth could take out of that supply house, and he wouldn't diminish it any at all. It'd still be full. So that means God's got enough for you and me, right? Because he's infinite, and so his storehouse is infinite. No matter how much comes out, it's always full. And that's what it means to fill up there. 12:13, it's common for the one eating to leave a servant a share, because they believe it's sinful to waste time, money, health, prosperity, life, and we do too. This miracle promise set the stage for the discourse on the bread of life. Broken bread equals broken body, Jesus enough for all without diminishing, as I just said, okay? So we're going to skip a little bit here and then come to the bread of life. So as they saw this happen here, well, God supplied all that by blessing it, simply blessing it, a little lunch. Then he will use it a little bit later to give the discourse on the bread of life. Okay, so the next part is in between that, Jesus walking on water. That's a famous thing you've heard preached on a whole lot, okay, on the Sea of Tiberias. The 13:7 means that, as had on your mount, Sea of Tiberias, Sea of Galilee, is 13 miles long and 7 miles wide. And they would be going, they began naturally as it, as time to go across on this, and Jesus comes walking on the water. Now, in the miracle of the bread, Jesus is the provider. In the miracle of the storm, Jesus is the protector. And both those are his function. And the way we apply this, in the middle of the sea, mankind, and by the way, in the Bible, most of the time becomes a real, you could say all the time, the sea, the turbulent, raging sea is symbolic of mankind. And at the darkest hour, that's going to be tribulation here, Jesus brings peace and calm when he is present. Now, you probably know this here, but is there anything you want to add here on this so far about the feeding the 5,000 or walking on the water?
I missed the blanks.
On walking on the water?
You went into.
Provider, protector. Went to provider, protector. Someone said to walk on the water, one must get out of the boat. You've heard that. You've probably heard sermons on that before, You'll never be able to walk on water until you get out of the boat. We really talk about Peter, because he got out there and his faith failed, but most of us never took the first step on the water, did we? So we can't fault him too much. I heard a Sunday school lesson somewhere in another church somewhere about that one time years ago, and it's pretty good when you think about it, okay? So this one, I was thinking, Pastor, is that what we were studying today on I was studying today on the time and everything. See if I can find that right quick in the walking on the water. Jesus therefore believed it would take them and take him by force, make him king. It's not coming. Verse 17, 18. The sea arose by reason of a great wind that blew. Okay, and they rode about 5 and 20 or 30 furlongs. Now, another gospel says halfway. I figured it out. That's what it was, about halfway. They, about 5 and 20 or 30 furlongs, and if you come to happy medium between that, it was about 3.5 miles. So they were halfway across. they see Jesus walking on the water and drawing nigh the ship, and they were afraid. And he said to them, "It is I, be not afraid." They willingly received him in the ship. Immediately the ship was at the land whither they went. I was trying to say, is this the one, I'm getting them all mixed up, where it was the fourth watch in the other gospel? Anyway, where it is or not, I want you to know when the fourth watch was. Okay, it was 3 o'clock, 3 to 6 o'clock. So it was this one. It was after midnight. It's also called when the cock crows. You'll find that in Peter.
It's sure like the ones in Puerto Rico. Oh my.
Yeah. All right. And so then we'll get to the great discourse on the bread of life then. Now this is, keep in mind that many of the people were on the way to Passover. I told you they were on the way to a feast. And so they were going toward Jerusalem. Okay. To the Passover now. Verse 26, this is the bread of life now, verse 26. Jesus answered them and said, "Verily, verily, I say unto you, ye seek me not because you saw the miracles, but because ye did eat of the loaves and were filled." What were the miracles of Christ? What were they supposed to do?
For a sign.
Got a sign. What was it? What sign? What kind of sign then?
Prove.
What? Prove? Proof of what?
To prove to his disciples he was God.
To his disciples? Okay. In the public ministry beyond his disciples. You know? Prove because of the miracles what he could do that nobody else could do except God. Prove his deity. Okay. So he says there, you know, in other words, you didn't seek me because you see who I am. You seek me, you sought me because I fed your belly. Basically, you know, by what you got out of it, in other words, you know. In verse 27 through 29, here is, "Labor not for the meat which perishes," and this is famous verses. "Labor not for the meat which perishes, but for that meat which endureth in everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you, for him hath God the Father sealed. So labor not for the meat which perisheth, but that meat which endureth everlasting life. Then said they unto him, What shall we do? We may work the work of God. Jesus answered and said unto them, This is the work of God, that you believe on him whom he hath sent." Another way of saying, I believe you can't do anything to earn salvation. You just have to believe in this. So many of you fill-ins here on the bread of life. In verse 27 through 9, salvation is by receiving God's finished work. We only respond in faith. Two fill-ins are finished in faith. Verse 30, the Jews always require a sign. I'll just throw this out real quick without going into it. That's what the sign of tongues was. Because the Jews required a sign. And Isaiah, I believe it was, had already said those of stammering tongues, which the Galileans or the apostles would have this, you know, stammering tongues. And then of course we Baptists believe that the gift of tongues ceased when the Bible was complete. Okay.
Mr. Anderson?
Yes.
Seeking involving Jesus for the blank reasons?
Wrong.
Wrong?
Mm-hmm. That big old classical word, wrong. Okay, and then 27 to 29 was finished in faith. The Jews require a sign in verse 30. 31 through 24. God gave the manna in the wilderness, not Moses. The manna was a type of the real bread from heaven. That's just what he was telling them there. Verse 35, Jesus identifies himself as the bread from heaven. Also does in verse 48 at the end of this notes here. So twice here identifies as the bread of heaven. Back in verse 35 now he knows. This people had the same opportunity that those of chapter 4 had, but they would not believe. You remember chapter 4 again? After the woman was saved and they came out, what happened? Many got saved, the Bible says. These had the same opportunity, but they did not choose to believe. So it's just to believing. John, verses 46, I've reminisced of John 1:18. 46 says, Not that any man has seen the Father, save he which is of God. He has seen the Father. John 1:18 says that he exegeted him, or he showed the Father. Okay, those two are famous things: the feeding 5,000, the walking in the water, bread of life. Any questions on that? We'll finish it on page 21. He goes on to tell them on 21 that about the manna was eaten, but later they died. Eat this bread and you'll live forever. Now verse 53, we look at it in 53 notes. Jesus said to them, verily, verily, I say unto you, except ye eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, ye have no life with me. Whosoever eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood hath eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. For my flesh is meat indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. He eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood, dwell in me, and I in him. And the living Father sent me, as I live by the Father, so he that eateth me, even he shall live by me. This is the bread which came down from heaven. Now as your fathers did eat manna and are dead, he that eateth the bread shall live forever. Many therefore, verse 60, of the disciples, when they heard this, said, this is a hard saying, who can hear it? Now, when you read that, it sounds like cannibalism, okay? And so I want to give you it's in the notes here, a misconception you need to be aware of. This is where the Catholics get their transubstantiation. T-R-A-N-S, trans, sub, S-U-B, stan, S-T-A-N, T-I-A-T-I-N, T-R-A-N-S, S-U-B, S-T-A-N, T-I-A-T-I-N, transubstantiation.
The letters in that blank.
Yeah, means a crossover, a crossover of substance, transubstantiation. The Catholics believe that when you take the wafer, you ever seen it? You ever been to Catholic church or anything?
I've never been to Catholic church.
I haven't either, but a couple of times went to a funeral, 2 funerals maybe, anyway. But anyway, when they take the wafer, they eat the wafer, they believe, they're taught that when you ingest it, when you eat it and you swallow it, it actually becomes the body of Christ.
Flesh.
The flesh.
Like a vanilla wafer?
Yeah. Whatever wafer they use, or vanilla on it. But it's a little wafer about like that.
Probably unleavened.
It would be unleavened if it's
Yeah.
biblical. And then I believe that when you partake of the wine,
Mm-hmm.
and most of them like real wine, not grape juice. And when they get through with the ceremony, they all drink the wine. It's left over. And when they, I mean actually, I'm not just saying, and when you drink the wine, it actually becomes the blood of Christ when you ingest it. And they take that from this part of the Bible here, okay? And they say it's a hard saying, and it is a hard saying unless you have something to go on, right?
Amen.
You know, so you could understand. I could understand had they been taught wrong all their life. I can understand this, you know. But of course, we believe that this is symbolic saying, right? You know, we believe that the ordinance of the Lord's Supper is commemoration. Okay, that it stands for the broken body of Christ, which is dead put on Calvary's cross, died for our sin, and that the grape juice stands for His blood, which is given for us. Okay, got the difference in it? Okay. But you'll run across this transubstantiation. There's others believe too. Consubstantiation, different ones have different things, but this is the most outlandish, you know. And if you read about it, you'll say it can't be because Jesus said that He died once for our sin. Commentators will tell you if this be true, then He would be dying continually if it actually became the body and blood of Christ. Okay, Nate? Okay, good. And, verse 60, it's just a hard saying to understand, but it can be accepted by your feelings, by faith. Verse 61 and 62, they were offended that one in a human body could claim deity. Verse 63, the Word of God and the Spirit quickens. S-P-I-R-I-T, Spirit, capital S. Verse 66, if He would be a king with a kingdom, then they would not accept Him nor His teachings. Let that one go, that's hard to understand too. Verse 66 and 71, Peter's confession of faith. Judas identified as the devil and the betrayer. Peter, once again, old Peter, he's always, I call him the impetuous and tempestuous disciple. Okay, anything on John 6? Anything on John 6? 5 and 6.
Are we gonna have like a final exam over all of this, or is
We might.
it gonna be open note?
Right. We really have to cruise, I tell you. I hate to do it this way, but. Okay. We're at John 7. We need to hurry. There are 5 months elapses between chapters 6 and 7. 5 months. Another 5 months you miss in your 6 and 7. Okay, this is the Feast of the Tabernacles. Feast of Tabernacles. This is it would be after harvest time. This would be in the fall. Feast of Tabernacles. Okay. And let's see. Let me see. I need to just look at this a minute and see where we are. It's in Galilee, verse 1. After these things, Jesus walked in Galilee, where he's not walking Jewry because the Jews sought to kill him. Now the Jews' Feast of Tabernacles at hand. His brethren wanted him to go. He said, I'm not going because they want to kill me, because in verse 6, my time has not yet come. After they leave, then he goes. He goes to the feast, and he's found in the midst. Verse 14, now about the midst of the feast, Jesus went up to the temple. You with me? Okay. He went into the temple, and he goes teaching in the temple. And verse 30, they sought to take him, but no man laid hands on him because his hour was not yet come. And you come down to 37, and that's where I want to pick up in a minute, but let me your notes are no fill-ins on this, I don't think. Okay, in your notes there may be a little addition here. The number 4, where it said male Jews, see that there? I told you we go a little more. Male Jews were attend at least 3 feasts per year. And in Deuteronomy, it gives a little bit. Deuteronomy calls it unleavened bread. We know it's Passover because Passover is a part of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, or the day before. And Passover, Pentecost, and Deuteronomy is giving us a Feast of Weeks. Okay, that's where you're reading 16 Tabernacles. I gave you Deuteronomy 16:16 there in that. So those 3. Now, let me give you, because in your notes you may want to see it sometime. Probably won't, but you might. Add to prophetic page, and we have done much on prophetic pages, but this is the first one I want to put maybe a question mark after what we've said tonight. Jesus never attended Pentecost, Feast of Pentecost. Even though all, Jews were supposed to, because his life is painting a picture of things to come. And it's symbolic of the coming of the Holy Spirit. You remember, generally, I don't necessarily go all the way with it, but generally Pentecost in the book of Acts is when the Holy Spirit comes indwelling, is called the founding of the church. Of course, in embryo form, I believe it had been there before that, but manifest, I call it the church manifested in Acts. And so he had not ascended. The word ascended means he had not ascended yet. He was just dying for the sin and stuff. But you can study that sometime on your own and look at that and see that's what that means there. He attended Passover because it's symbolic of the crucifixion. He attended Tabernacles because it's symbolic of that coming. And Jesus leaves Jerusalem after Passover is gone. The harvest months, then he comes back to Jerusalem. He'll go and be gone that time and come back. So if you study the parallels there, you'll see his life is painting a picture of from then until he comes back again, I think. Okay. Verse 1 through 9, unbelief and departure. Okay, verse 4, in the midst of the feast, I've come down accused of having the devil. Okay, get down to verse 21, and let me do this one, because I have done one work, he said, and you all marvel. The work he's talking about was the one done in verse 5, last time he was in Jerusalem, was at Pool of Bethesda. That's what he's talking about there. And let's see, invitation again given. And then, 37. And notice, here is at the end of the feast, after he's taught and once again had a run-in with the people there. He says this, 37, in the last day, the great day of the feast, he said, Jesus stood and cried, saying, if any man thirst, let him come unto me and drink. He that believeth on me, as the scripture hath said, out of his belly shall flow waters, rivers of living water. This he spake of the Spirit, which they believe on him should receive, for the Holy Ghost was not yet given, because that Jesus was not yet glorified. And so that was the keynote of chapter 7, is actually his standing and crying in the temple, giving an invitation to come into me. If you wanted to tabulate 7. So 5 was what? Chapter 5 was what? What happened in chapter 5? What happened in chapter 5? Oh, chapter 5?
He selects the 12 apostles. The Sermon on the Mount, that's
That was Matthew.
The key to chapter 5. The pool of Bethesda. And the man got healed, right? Chapter 6.
You caught us all asleep there.
Chapter 6. Feeding of the 5,000. Okay. 7. Goes to the Feast of Tabernacles and gives the invitation. Okay.
So just if we have a test on the 5,000, it's just going to be 5,000 men. Is that say?
It'll be clear as mud to you.
Okay. Clear as mud.
I wouldn't do you wrong. No, I wouldn't do you wrong there. Okay, and so, but I'm trying to, I want to do that 5, 6, and 7. Pool of Bethesda, the man got healed. 6, he fed the 5,000 men and whatever. But he also gave the discourse on the bread of life, the first item. Chapter 6. Okay. 7, he cries into the Feast of Tabernacle. He stands up and cries and gives the invitation. You know. Okay. Got it?
And he never attended one of those feasts, even though he was a Jew. Jesus never did.
Yeah, he's attending all these except.
He never attended the Pentecost. That's what it was.
Which one we're talking about there? Yeah, Pentecost. Well, but I put a question mark there, remember? I've got that down there, but I put a question mark there.
So you don't.
The more and more we study, it's just unclear. But if you use the typology of those he did, if he were fulfilling his life, then that's what's under there. Passover was symbolic of the crucifixion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and tabernacle was symbolic of the second coming, and then, but Pentecost was when the Holy Spirit was given to plant the church. The Holy Spirit was around, but the Holy Spirit did not indwell anybody until church was founded, right? In the Old Testament, he didn't indwell people. He came on them for service, but didn't indwell them. It's peculiar to the church age, the indwelling of the Holy Spirit. And he could not come until Jesus ascended. Jesus said, I must ascend. And we'll get to that in chapters following, 14, 15. And so he had not ascended. And so if you follow the scope of, he's painting a picture with his life, then he would not have gone to Pentecost. But I can't say he didn't.
Gotcha.
Okay, got it? Okay.
Could he not have gone to Pentecost before he began his ministry? So?
Oh, yes, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's what I was trying to.
He could go wherever until he became 30 and went into because that was when you went into the priesthood of public ministry. Yeah.
So he wouldn't have fulfilled all the requirements as a man.
Sure, but it's supposed to go over here.
Yes.
You know. Okay. So you can take that for whatever's worth, all right? So 5, 6, and 7. Chapter 8. Page 23. We'll cover this. Let's do 8 and 9 before we leave them out. 8. Chapter 8. This is the infamous adulterous woman brought to him. And in chapter 8 begins, Jesus went to the Mount of Olives, and early in the morning, so you get the time span, early in the morning, now he's still in Jerusalem, the temple. He came again to the temple, and all the people came unto him, and he sat down and taught them. And the scribes and the Pharisees brought him to him a woman taken in adultery. And when they had set her in the midst, they said to him, Master, this woman was taken in adultery in the very act. Now Moses in the law commanded that she should be stoned, but what sayest thou? This they said, tempting him, that they might have accused him. But Jesus stooped down and with his finger rolled on the ground, as though he heard them not. And when they continued asking him, he lifted him up and said to them, He that is without sin among you, let him first cast a stone at her. And again he stooped down and rolled on the ground. And they which heard it, being convicted by their own conscience, went out one by one, again the eldest to the last. And Jesus was left alone, and the woman was standing in the midst. And when Jesus lifted himself up and saw none but the woman, he said to her, Woman, where are thine accusers? Hath no man condemned thee? She said, No man, Lord. And Jesus said to her, Neither do I condemn thee. Go, and sin no more. Now, let me give you, because you're seminary students, you're not run-of-the-mill people out there in the church. You're not just laymen. You study the Bible, okay? So you're gonna study, you're gonna read commentaries, and you're gonna study and all this, right? Now, the adulterous woman, these verses 8, 1 through 11, is called a spurious passage. It's in your notes. It's spurious
What does that
passage.
actually mean?
Okay. It means one that may or may not should be included. Okay. Now, I would use it if I wanted to use it, I'd use it for text and a message. But the idea is you don't use this text for a message on its own. You use it as supporting text. And I've got things down here to notice. This is what the commentaries say. Rejected as spurious or an interpolation. That means put in by scribes or things left out. Why it's rejected by a lot of commentators. Okay? Not found in some of the oldest manuscripts and earlier translations. Left out, not found there. B, some of the Greek fathers do not refer to it. C, differs in style from the rest of the gospel. And D, incident with foster immorality. Okay? And what does it look like to them, scribes, that Jesus was saying is okay? Now, why would it be authentic on the other side? Why would you say it's authentic? Some of more reliable manuscripts do contain the passage. So some do, some don't. Some of the others omitted it on purpose, believing it may lead to immorality. Augustinius in one word refers to it. He was a church father. The text makes no sense without it. Read 753, jump to 812. It makes no sense, it says. So there are yes and no's. I just want to bring you to your attention in a Bible study that this is out there. This is in commentaries you read. May skip it, may call it by being a spurious passage, this kind of thing. And so you need to know that, okay? And the reasons why they might say that. Now, I use it, I believe all being there because I believe God superintended the Bible. Okay? Number 3, the story is a plot by the scribes and Pharisees to entrap Jesus so they might accuse him legally. They address him as a master or teacher. And then I give you the Leviticus and Deuteronomy, what they say there about the man and woman. Number 4, the writing on the ground. Now, everybody wants to know what he wrote on the ground. Nobody knows. I've heard preachers try to surmise what he may have written on the ground. He don't say what he wrote on the ground. I don't know what he wrote on the ground. Most preachers would say to you, well, he wrote sins down there that the men's heart convicted them of that sin. That's all written on the ground down there. I don't know. But he wrote something on the ground. The Bible says their own conscience convicted them. And they began to leave, okay? The writing on the ground convicted the men and convinced the woman. The woman addressed Jesus as Lord. And he forgives of the past, but go and sin no more. So that's the story of the woman calling adultery. They bring early in the morning. They bring her as one calling adultery, and she probably was. And they bring him, but they didn't bring for any reason except trying to trap him and give a reason for condemning Jesus. Because the law of Moses said one thing, said man and woman should be stoned to death. Okay? But then he begins to write, and their own conscience convicts them. Evidently, they were engaged in some of the same stuff. Okay, that's all I can figure out. You know?
They knew where she was at.
Yeah, right. Yeah, they had nowhere to go get her, didn't they? And so it's one of those passages of the grace of God. But notice she called him Lord, and notice he said he didn't condone what she's doing. He said, I'm forgiving you, but go and sin no more. And that's what Christians are supposed to do. You don't consciously sin. Now you got the second thing in 8:12-15. He's not only I am the bread of life, but I'm the light of the world. See your second usage here, I am's. Probably spoken as the sun arises. Notice how Jesus already has used water in chapter 4 and bread in chapter 6. Now he uses light. I am the water of life and the bread of life. And long disputation who Jesus is. And I've got the bottom of the page handwritten, if you can read it, of the things in the verses that he claims to be, his claims in here: the light of the world, of heavenly origin, the great I am, the truth, sinless, power to bestow spiritual life and eternal existence in this. And so, a long disputation. Now, beginning in verse 32, Adam's blood in their veins, but his faith not in their hearts. He said, in essence, you are of the lineage physically of Abraham, but you're not of the spiritual lineage. You don't believe like Jesus, like Abraham did. In bondage to Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Rome, they said, we've never been in bondage to anybody. He said, oh yeah, yes you have. Jesus pronounces them the children of the devil. And then he says, before Abraham was, I am. Verse 57 and 58, to Jesus, Jews unto him, they aren't yet 50 years old. And hast thou seen Abraham? Jesus said to them, verily, verily, I say unto you, before Abraham was, I am. Not I was, but I am. Remember he began that in burning bush, Moses. I am that I am. He's eternally present one. And so I like the wording there, before Abraham was, I am. Okay, anything on that you can come up with, you think on, maybe you don't know about it, come up with. But it's just the adulterous woman and then the light of the world. Now, he is the water of life, chapter 4. He's the bread of life in chapter 6. And we just cut off by that. And we're he's the light of the world. Here, oh yes sir.
For 44, when Jesus pronounces them children, who is them? When it says them, Jesus pronounces them children of the devil. Who exactly?
The ones he's talking to.
Okay.
Yeah. Those that are disputing with him.
Okay.
When he's telling them, he gives them all those things. I got the bottom of the page. And then them, those he's talking to.
Okay.
Yeah. Randy, do we need a minute to get back, or are y'all gonna be able to get back?
You're wrong.
Okay.
The other one's on anyway.
All right, let's do chapter 9. That's what I need to get to tonight. Page 24. Jesus heals the blind man. This is, I don't know, it's not even in this Bible here, but I've got this chapter outlined in preaching material in another Bible. It's a wonderful thing here. He heals the blind man, the man who was blind from birth. It's John's the only gospel to record this miracle. And it starts off as 9:1. As Jesus passed by, he saw a man which was blind from his birth. And his disciples asked him, saying, Master, who did sin, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? And of course, we have that all the time in society. Is we want to make somebody sinners because they've got a problem. What's wrong with them? And it's not always, it can be, but it's not always, a problem they have. Verse 3, Jesus answered, neither hath this man sinned nor his parents, but that the works of God should be made manifest in him. I must work the works of him that sent me while it is day. The night cometh when no man can work. As long as I am in the world, I am the light of the world. And there's another light again. There's it. When he has thus spoken, he spat on the ground and made clay of a spittle, and he anointed the eyes of the blind man with his clay. And he said to him, go wash at the pool of Siloam, which by interpretation, sin. He went his way therefore and washed, and he came to see him. The neighbors therefore said they would before had seen him that he was blind, and said, is not he that sat and begged? Some said, this is he. Others said, he is like him. And he said, I am he. Therefore said they unto him, how were the eyes opened? He said, a man that is called Jesus made clay, and anointed my eyes, and said unto me, go to the pool of Siloam and wash. And I went and washed, and I received my sight. Then said they unto him, where is he? He said, I know not. Now, let's look at notes a little bit here. One of the 4 miracles by Jesus, there's 4 recorded in Judea and 4 in Galilee. And this is one of the 4 in Judea, and you see what they are there. And you have a prophetic measure, Isaiah 29:18, in the day that Jesus come, the blind will see. Could not be denied, it was made in public, could not be ignored because the beggar was so well known. Verse 3, why was a man was blind? You've already established that. Jesus declares it has to be the light of the world. Spittle, could Jesus have cured him without spittle?
Nobody knows.
Well, he could, because he cured other people without it.
Right.
He even cured them long distance. Okay. So we don't know. Sometimes God uses things, sometimes he doesn't. But here he uses spittle mentioned 3 times in connection with miracles of Jesus. This passage, Mark 7:32 and Mark 8, where he made spittle, and anointed their eyes. You may have an idea with that. I often don't know, except just where he did it. But I know he could have done it without spittle, but he chose to use something. And people say, commentators say that he uses things as an aid to faith sometimes, that something you can actually see. I don't know if that be the case or not. It's to help man longs to see and feel and use his senses, and this kind of thing. I don't know, but in his case, he used spittle, put on his eyes, and he was. So, verse 7, now this is something amazing to me. He could see immediately upon washing, sunlight was no problem. Now, my eyes are very sensitive to sunlight. Always have been. I don't know why, but I don't know about you, but this guy, and this is the idea that I get out of it. When Jesus does the job, it's done right. And he needed sunglasses for a few days. When you have something in your eyes, even when you have your eyes dilated, you had to wear sunglasses a while, don't you? If you're going to drive home, you got to wear sunglasses or whatever, But here, he had no problem. He could see. He admitted he could see here. The man gives the account of his healing in 9 through 11. But now another problem. This miracle also is done on Sabbath. On Sabbath. The parents were in danger of being put out of the synagogue. And that's what the leaders of the synagogue came, and they began to put pressure on them. Verse 25. I like some of the directness of verse 25. He answered and said, they were talking, who is this man? Whatever he answered and said, whether he be a sinner or no, I know not. One thing I know, that was I was blind, now I see. I like that verse,
He hadn't seen him anyway.
I don't, he says, that's the one thing about, you can't explain all the theology sometimes, but you know what happened to you. And that's what it's saying. I don't know, but I know it's blind, and now I see. This is, I guess, the more Anderson theology, but this ignorant man was more learned than scholars. Verse 34, you see verse 34, it says, they answered and said unto him, thou wast altogether born in sins, and dost thou teach us? And they cast him out, meaning cast him out of the synagogue. They excommunicated him. The belief and revelation who Jesus is, in verse 38, he said, Lord, I believe. And he worshiped him. Jesus said, for judgment I am come in the world, that they which see not might see, and that they which see might be made blind. Now, can you see what he said there to him in relation to the miracle? That those that could not see can now see. But those who see might be made blind because of their unbelief. Yes.
These verses down here, Matthew 15 and 23, the Pharisees, what exactly are those referencing?
They are referencing to blind leaders.
Okay.
If you look at those, you'll see where they were called blind leaders.
Okay.
Matthew, the Pharisees were blind. Both in Matthew, Romans, the Jews, and I looked up a couple of them. Laodicean church in Revelation. He said, you think you see it and all this kind of thing, but you're blind. So it's just showing you where.
Okay.
Leaders, sometimes leaders are blind,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they're just religionists, if they're just in religion. We call them mama call,
Father sent.
Father sent.
It's like an old school term or something?
A real old school term. But he's talking about a preacher or a full-time worker that,
Doesn't really.
yeah, right, that already called, mama
Yeah,
called
yeah.
them, and Papa sent, you know, Papa paid the way, you know,
Yeah.
but mama called them, you know, this kind of thing. And I thank God, a lot of mamas did pray for their kids down through the years, and there's testimonies to that.
Some of them got saved at Bible college.
Yeah, and others, I mean, became, really did a work for the Lord, you know, so mama prays, not get mama's praying. It's just the fact that some mamas, they want their kids so bad to be what they want them to be. It doesn't just have to be preaching, you know, where, and we know, and we know that there's some that wanna live their lives through their kids again, they want to,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
They
saying?
want their kids to accomplish what they.
Right, yeah, what they wanted to do in their lives. It just don't work that way. I mean, so anyway, whatever that's worth. All right, we're through 9. And we got about 5 minutes here, and so let's drill you again, okay? Let's drill you again.
At the end of the class.
Yeah, okay. Chapter 2. What happened in chapter 2? John.